Good afternoon, everybody. David Shuster here on the third hour of WEAC Radio's Take Action News. So glad to have you with us on WPWC 1480 AM and, of course, all across the country and around the world on our YouTube channel, Take Action News TV. We're going to pause in a few minutes and let our syndicated stations catch up with us. But there is a story out there that has caught my attention, Daniel Marins, and this involves one Kira Wilmot, 16-year-old honor student at Bartow Senior High School in Bartow, Florida. She's never been in trouble. She has a reputation for being nice to everyone. She's gotten straight A's, and she loves science. She loves science, and she decided to do something of a science experiment on school grounds, not inside a school, but outside in the back. A couple of weeks ago at 7 in the morning, Wilmot and a friend of hers mixed aluminum foil and toilet bowl cleaner in a small water bottle. After about 30 seconds, the reaction created pressure inside the bottle, blowing the cap off with a pop that, according to witnesses, sounded like firecrackers going off, right? By the way, if you're interested in the science, it's aluminum foil reacts with hydrochloric acid in the cleaner. The reaction produces hydrogen gas, which quickly builds up the pressure. But in any case, the reaction, two kids, 16-year-olds, their own little science experiment on school property, the reaction created a little bit of smoke. Kira's friend walked away, and the assistant principal, Dan Durham, walked over. Now, again, nobody was hurt by the explosion, but later that day, Wilmot was handcuffed, arrested, and expelled from school. She was expelled from school. According to the police report, she's been charged with 2 felonies, possession, discharge of a weapon on school grounds, and discharging a destructive advice. The school says that she was expelled for violating the school's conduct code, which requires immediate expulsion for any student in possession of a bomb or explosive device while at a school or school-sponsored activity, unless the device is part of some legitimate school-related activity or science project. Good grief. This is outrageous. If this 16-year-old honors student, who's African-American, by the way, African-American, I wonder if that has anything to do with this. If this 16-year-old student had simply done this experiment of hers in her backyard, no problem. Or if she'd happened to do it in the science class in preparation for science fair, no problem there. But because she and a friend of hers were simply just, let's try this little experiment on our own. They were doing it in the morning. Nobody was hurt. No damage. She's expelled from school, and she's facing 2 felonies? This is outrageous.